My guest today is Aadi Achint, a geopolitical analyst based in India and the host of Def Talks. Through conversations with military leaders and experts, he explores the real security and geopolitical challenges facing India and the world, focusing on facts, strategy, and open discussion rather than rhetoric. Adi, welcome.
Thank you.
India is one of Israel's closest partners, but at the same time, India still maintains relations with countries like Iran. How does India balance those two relationships?
It's the same like balancing a relationship between USA and Russia. So, India, every country has its own strategic interests. Every country has its own, requirements. So geographically, Iran is much closer to us, and it gives us an access towards Central Asia, which is filled with, a lot of resources that we need. It's filled with an access to Europe, which is sometimes very important because we are a growing country and we have a huge amount of exports going across. We also previously used to buy a lot of oil from there, so it's more of a transactional relationship as you would have with anybody in the neighborhood. We also, one of the biggest things for us is Afghanistan. We have a huge amount of interest in Afghanistan. And of course, we are not going to access Afghanistan through Pakistan. I'm sure, you will understand when I say that. So the only other option for us is, of course, Iran, which we use regularly to support our interests within Afghanistan, because that's a country that we have a lot of focus towards, to have a lot of interest in, and of course cultural and historical ties that actually take us forward. See, it's a dichotomy, right? And it's also gives us a very interesting position where we sit between two fighting players. So it's also a communication pattern which is unbiased. We want the best for both, and both understand that there is a lot of messaging that happen actually between these three countries. So this is, a position that India finds itself not just with Iran, but with Russia, but with multiple other players, where we literally sit in the middle, and you have these two fighting powers who are passing messages through us. So it's an advantage for, not as far as the narrative is concerned, which is in the public, but it's an advantage for a rather quiet diplomacy that actually goes on between even fighting nations.
India's perspective, what does Israel represent? Is it an ally, a model, or a strategic partner?
See, we don't get into alliances with anyone, and India has maintained this very, very clearly, that we do not have any allies. We do not stand with we are not fighting anybody's war, and we don't expect anybody to come and fight ours. We've been strategic partners with everyone. And this is something that's a stand that we've taken as a country, that we don't want to get involved with others' issues. Israel has been a traditional, very, very deep partner. It has been there standing with India for a long time. And of course, India has done whatever it can, because India's rise has just been very, very recent. So we've also been there with regards to a lot of defense relationship, a lot of strategic relationship. And I think one of the biggest common interests is terrorism. The rise of radical Islamic terrorism within the region has both of our interests combined together, and we meet at that particular center point. Apart from that, because we don't have such entanglements, Israel feels it very comfortable to actually work with India on very, very high end defense capabilities. So, a lot of the stuff that Israel is using today, India is using today, these are joint productions, joint developments. For example, the Barak 8 missile, which is the anti aircraft missile and anti air missile, which is employed in Brazil, Israel, as well as in India. So, it's a joint production. There's a lot of our radars are made together, a lot of our drones are made together. So, there's a lot of inept trust between the two systems. And that trust doesn't come because two people just sit down and say, hey, I trust you, I trust you. No, it's because the system trusts each other, right? And that's a very structural basis to a relationship, even if you disagree on certain areas. We both know that we do not mean any harm to each other's security. As a matter of fact, we work towards each other's security. And that's one of the biggest comforts one can give to another country as far as a relationship is concerned. Everybody's worried about security today in this world where we have a complete breakdown of the global order. You're really worried about your security, your production of security equipment, your research for the future, ensuring that stuff that you make does not get leaked to the opponent, which is the case in multiple places. You see that happening. Israel has gone through it, India has gone through it. So, you really need a very, very structured, trust-based relationship for something like that to move forward. And India doesn't have that with many countries. So Israel is special. You've got Israel, which we do this with. We've got Russia that we do this with. We've got France that we do this with. We don't even have that with the United States. So these are probably three of the only countries that we are working on a very different paradigm in comparison with each other. It's not the same. It's not like we're working on the same stuff with Israel and the same stuff with France and the same stuff with the Russians. There's three different verticals. You're working in all three different verticals with three different countries, with three different systems. And yeah, it does work.
Was the relationship always like this, or did it become stronger over time?
It obviously became stronger over time. I think the current leadership from both India and Israel have pitched in personally towards this. I believe Prime Minister Modi should be visiting Israel by the end of this month sometime. I believe there has been talks for Prime Minister Netanyahu's visit also to India. So there is, there's that innate trust between both the leaders which has actually brought in. This wasn't the case before. It wasn't an overt relationship. The part of the relationship where public interactions and stuff was a little, held back because of course vote bank politics within India. That whole thing was broken, and I don't know if you remember in 2016, Prime Minister Modi became the first global leader to literally land in Palestine, which is of course the West Bank, and then take off in a Jordanian aircraft supported by Israeli security, aerial security, and land in Israel. So this was the first nation to do that, and he was also the first leader to get the highest military award, a civilian award, from not just the Palestinians but also the Israelis in the same trip. So that calls for some, trust on both the parts. That calls for some trust and balance from India as well, and of course, understanding and trust and balance from the other side as well. So it's a mutual give and take relationship where you don't mind it when somebody says, "Hey, I want this. Give me 10% extra here." Yeah, okay, fair enough. It's always that openness, which is fine, which is how it is.
Do the people of India feel a sympathy towards Israel? How do they feel about Israel?
To be honest with you, it's not sympathy. We don't feel sympathy towards anybody, but we feel bad about what's happening. No question about it. When you look at the situation, we've seen the similar kinds of terrorism. We've seen similar kinds of activities, uh, in India as well, and we've actually been hit by the similar kinds of groups, right? So it's not something which it's been there for a while, right? So we do understand what's happening. It's a sticky situation. It's a terrible situation. We have that on both the sides of our, both our left, east and west. See, Israel is a country which is small in size, uh, is surrounded by, not surrounded today, but traditionally has been surrounded by enemies, and of course countries that are not that strong. So they have a thoroughfare which is actually happening there. India has its own challenges. We've got two nuclear armed neighbors, one on the east, one on the west, which are, well, to be honest with you, not the straightest people that you want to deal with. One is a rogue country, and the second one is, of course, an expansionist at best. So we've got similar challenges of, I won't say survivability, but of course, long-term security, right? And I guess that's the resonation between the two nations.
Let's go back to Iran. As we see in Iran, there's the past few weeks has been a lot of upheaval, a lot of citizens killed. Does India distinguish between the Iranian people and the regime, or it's to India?
Let me make something extremely clear. We always have a relationship with the people, and that's something we've always done. If you look at our foreign policy, we always say people to people relationship. The leadership may be separate, not pro right now. And I'll give you a very clear example. Although in India, that is, people are very disgusted that we did that. Even I am sometimes. But Turkey, right, when it went through its earthquake, we were the first people to land there and provide help. And Turkish are not the straightest people in the world. So they support Pakistan, which supports terrorism within our country. But we did what we did because our relationship may not be with Erdogan, but with the people. We may not like the Taliban, but we do like the Afghan people. So we send a lot of aid. By the way, we have one of the highest aid givers to Afghanistan. Before the Americans left, our investments there was close to about $4 billion in Afghanistan. We built their parliament, we built their schools, we built hospitals, we were running so many things there on a humanitarian basis. So the people's relationship, and India has always kept that separately because the governments can come and go. People are, not everybody's as crazy as the government is, right? So you need to maintain that relationship with the people, and that's one thing a lot of people forget. When there's a bad government in a country that you don't like, you actually end up hating the people. Having said that, you can't say that about every country. I mean, you have in Israel, you have certain pretty clear hatreds towards certain countries. So as we, for example, Pakistan, because there is a, now see, this is indoctrination, and that's something that we need to understand. Indoctrination is directed, right? Radicalization and indoctrination is not a wild card that is thrown at everybody. It's a very directed system. It's done purposefully for a particular stand in particular areas. Now, a jihadi sitting in Philippines, I don't think is bothered about India and Israel, right? He's bothered about his kind of area and what he wants to do in that area. And a jihadi sitting, for example, in Boko Haram somewhere in Nigeria, I don't think does even know about India and Israel. Or even if he does, it's probably just abusive. Having said that, his area of interest is not that. His area of interest is pretty localized. So when you have these radicalized sort of elements within a country, they are directed towards a certain country. For example, in Iran, they're directed towards Israel, and we know that. And in Pakistan, they're directed towards India. So it's a very directional sort of an approach. And everybody talks about this. The whole phenomenon of radicalization misses this one thing. It's a directed weapon. It's not. It's not 360 degrees. It's a very focused, directed weapon, which is actually taking place there. So yeah, we know what's happening there, and there are issues. There's no question about it.
Wouldn't you say that it's also Islam against the world, meaning they are out to get every other religion that's not Islam? So you got Hindu, you got Judaism, and they
The
want to
Yahud
come.
and Nahud, as they say, which is the base.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's no question about it. See, there is a lot of radicalization which is being spread around the world today, right? Which is also there in their texts, right? Having said that, there are certain sections which are kind of accepting that there are issues and wanting to work towards it, but that's a very small minority, right? It doesn't help the larger cause. And you see the let me put this across in another way. The use of radicalization is worse than radicalization itself. So what we've seen during history, and let's take a little bit of a round back. What we've seen is the global powers using radicalization to fight Russia in after the Cold War within this particular region, which created the modern way of Islamic radicalization as we know it. This happened in Afghanistan. This happened all over in that region where this was used, right? And that is, to me, even more dangerous. What we are seeing today in our neighborhood is use of that. Pakistan is still enabled by the West, right? It's still funded by the West to do what it's doing. If the Americans today decide not to give spares to the Pakistanis for their F-16s and their tanks and stuff, Pakistan will cease to exist. It's the army that is holding it up, and the army chief sits down and has lunch with President Trump. So what do you say to that? It's like, let me put it across with, it's like sitting with this. I mean, Ismail Haniyeh is no more there, but it's like Trump sitting with Ismail Haniyeh and having lunch. I don't think the Israelis are going to appreciate that. So for me, radicalization is a problem. Yes, there's no question about it. But the enablement and the use of that radicalization by certain powers for their geopolitical motives is worse, right? And I don't care who does it. Iran does it, it's bad. Pakistan does it, it's bad. The Americans do it, it's worse. Because, they've been hit by it. They understand it's brewing within their country and they can't see it. And just to create or maintain their structure around the world, when you use these kind of powers, it becomes bad. Now, I asked this question multiple times and I've not really got an answer. Khomeini, when he landed after 1979, where did he come from? And he was in the West, right? So if Iran was an interest of the West, why was he sent here? These are questions, these are tough questions that people are not asking. Because chaos helps to control. It's simple as that. You sell weapons, you sell influence, you sell your standing. If there is no chaos and everybody's hunky dory and jumping and driving, there won't
yeah,
be the chaos, right? So for me, yes, that's a problem. What is written in the book is a huge problem, but that's enabled as well. What happened in 1979 is that the larger Muslim world, which is the Sunni Muslim world, basically realized that, oh shit, the Shias have just had a revolution. My God, I hope they don't attack us and kind of remove Sunni. So what did they do? They started funding money into countries like Pakistan, Afghanistan to create this humongous Wahhabism, and that was allowed because at that time the enemy was Iran. So you kind of go and hit it with whatever you want, and after that, once the job was done, you just walk away from there. And that entire region that was radicalized and that was armed is just left like that. And what happened after that? They hit America, they hit India, they hit Israel.
yeah.
And that's the reality, which a lot of people miss because of the great power competition. Various things are done in a lot of places, and they're just left to lurch after that. For example, what's happening in Syria today? When when HTS came into Syria, I was having a debate with someone on my channel, and we both came down and said, you know what, one of the biggest things that we're going to see in the future is a future battle between Israel and Turkey. And this is about a year ago, and today we see that happening. We see the tensions between the two countries brewing up. But everybody say, oh, but Turkey is supplying oil to Israel. Yeah, well, you know what? Trade still goes on, trade goes on. But there is a geopolitical struggle which is going to take place between these two countries in Syria. It will happen. Both their interests are not with each other. The more Turkey drive south, the more Israelis would want to keep them north. And there you go. That's a battle right there. But now these elements were used by Turkey, and of course, I don't know if backed by America or not, to throw out Bashar al-Assad, which creates another freaking problem. Not that he was very great, because he was allowing Iranians to fund Hezbollah fund the Hezbollah by giving them rockets and this and that. Today, that thing is kind of sort of stopped. I don't believe it. I think this guy is also on board, and all sorts of stuff is going across, because the Turks would love it. The Turks would love it that Israel is busy with Hezbollah rather than fighting them in Syria. So this is a rotten situation, and I don't see a there's no straight lines. It's a rotten freaking situation. I don't know how else should I put myself? Because everybody takes it as a straight line. Oh, okay, this guy is enemy with this guy, and this guy is enemy with this guy. So A is equal to B, B is equal to C, so A is equal to C. No, it's not. A is actually equal to D, where the situation is completely flipped. So, I don't see a very straight, simple solution unless the funding of these guys. The Americans, Biden, when he was supporting Israel through his term, gave $2 billion from various different entities to Hamas. Helping Hands Foundation is funding Lashkar-e-Taiba, which killed people in the Chabad house in Mumbai. They were funding it till the last day Biden served. $70,000 were given in the last month of his administration to a foundation in Chicago, which is funding money to Pakistan. They gave money to Hamas. Now, what do you say? These are friends?
I mean, there's another thing, another example that I have is that we have the country of Qatar. Qatar is funding Hamas, shielding the Hamas leaders, funding the Muslim Brotherhood and Al Jazeera, all that stuff. But at the same time, they want to be the peacemaker with Israel, and they're buddy with America. They have the biggest air force. They're playing everybody. So what is Qatar? Is it an enemy? Is it a partner?
Who's kind of backing Qatar? Because one part of Qatar is friendly towards a certain part of geopolitics. The Americans didn't want Pakistanis to be dealing with the Taliban during the Afghan war, so they said, who's going to take them? Saudi said, no, not here. Okay, Qataris, you take it. So the Saudis didn't want that big American base there. So the Qataris opened their doors, and the Americans shifted into Qatar with the largest base ever, and then said, yeah, by the way, just take the Taliban with you as well. And while you're at it, take the Hamas with you as well, so that we can, talk through you and stuff like that. One geopolitical win in one place leads to another geopolitical disaster in the other. And this is short-sightedness at best. There is no long-term strategic plan. If we all sit down and think, what has been the West's long-term geostrategic plan? There isn't any. We will attack Russia and do what? We want a regime change. Okay, fantastic. And then what? Nobody thinks about and then what? Look at what's happening in Libya. Look at what's happening in whatever said and done. There was a certain sense of stability with these monsters that were ruling these two countries before. And I'm being very clear with my words. They were monsters. There's no question about it. But there was a certain amount of stability that they maintained within the region. When you pluck them out and threw them in the waste paper basket without thinking what next, that just tells you there is a lack of long-term strategic thought. And I think that is what plagues the world today. Everything is just for the whim and for a fast victory. It's not going to happen. I'm so glad India, personally, I mean, I'm not saying this because of my country, but I'm so glad India's not taking part in all this stuff. Not with Russia, not here, not anywhere. Saying, no, this is not going to work. We need to reset. We need to rethink what we are doing. And that's our message across the world, which is now beginning to resonate, because everybody's kind of standing in front of our door and saying, hey, can we have a trade deal, please? Can we align with you? Because, we've got trouble. Can we? Sure. And we'd like to have a trade deal with everybody. And that's what we're doing. We have a trade deal negotiation on with Russia and America and Israel and the European Union and Australia and UK and New Zealand and the GCC. Why should I fight on someone else's behalf? It's just lack of thought. which is plaguing the world today. Everybody wants a quick victory, and it's not going to work. This is just going to explode. Not that I'm saying Israel is being unreasonable in their demands from Iran, or Iran is being superly crazy. I mean, look at the situation where both these countries have brought to. I'm sure at the baseline, Israelis don't want a war with Iran. At the baseline, neither do the Iranians. But where are we right now? Being pushed into a situation where some big explosion will happen. At the end of it, who will get damaged? Israel and Iran. And the people will die in Israel, people will die in Iran. And that's pathetic. Because now there is obviously some guy, probably the Chinese, backing Iran and saying, hey, you fight, fight, fight. Because they know as long as the Americans are engaged here, the Americans are not going to focus towards China. Yeah. So that's why you see the Chinese sending in weapons after weapons after weapons after weapons in back to back. Why? They send their HQ9s, HQ16s, HQ22s, 26 or whatever they are. They don't work. That's a different story. But they're sending weapons because they know as long as the Americans and Israelis are occupied here, it's a lateral escalation opportunity for Iran. Russia is also happy. Yeah, fair enough. Let me beat the crap out of Ukraine by the time. And nobody pivots to China. Yeah. It's, this is again, sit down, think about it. Iranians are ready to now sacrifice because they want to listen to China. Their economy is in the pits. I mean, well, yeah. Now, and by the way, let me just add, the Iranians got their centrifuge and those things from Pakistan, who is now on the board of peace for Gaza. What? Yeah. Oh, yeah, fair enough.
Now, you have not just Israel, Iran, you have the US moving all their planes and ships and everything outside of Iran, and everybody's just waiting for something to happen. Now, let's say something does happen. What is the plan for the day after? Like exactly like you said.
What is?
What are they planning to hit? And second of all, what's going to happen even if the regime falls? What's next? What's the next plan?
See, I'll be very honest with you, and a lot of Israelis might not like this, but I'm going to be brutally honest. Israel is a small country in geography. Iran is much larger. So let's talk about 1,000 missiles, right? Let's say Iran has a intercepting capability of 50%, and Israel has an intercepting capability of 50 or 70%. Israel has much higher this thing, but something will still get through. You can't block everything, right? Now, in 1,000 missiles, let's say 10% fall on Israel, let's say 100, and God forbid, I hope that doesn't happen. That's a huge amount of damage in the geographical area of Israel. But 100 missiles in Iran is not going to make a damn of a difference. So the damage taking capability of a country also matters. Israel is much, much far ahead in terms of military capability, from far ahead in terms of its covert capability. But I really fear, because it's so small, even if some amount gets through, it's going to hurt. And the Americans aren't getting hurt. They'll probably lose a ship here and there or whatever in case the Chinese-backed missiles work. But that's the thing. And one fine day, Americans are going to say, all right, we're done with this. Thank you. Cheers. Love you all. Out. And who'll be left here cleaning up the garbage? All of us. Because the day Iran explodes, let me tell you, this place is going to become the biggest drug center in the world. The biggest synthetic drug rings in the world will come up in this place. There will be warlordism. There will be mass terrorism, not just towards Israel, but this entire region. Russia will get burnt, China will get burnt, India will get burnt, Israel will get burnt, Saudis, Qataris, UAE, everyone is going to get burnt. But nobody's talking about that. Not that I support the mullahs in Iran, but this is a geopolitical reality, right? So what do we do on the day after? Let's say, okay, fine, the mullahs are gone. Brilliant. Let's take the example of Bangladesh, right? They didn't like that lady Sheikh Hasina. She was gone. They brought in this what's his name? Yunus. Um, Nobel Peace Prize winner, and this and that and the other. You know what's happening on the street there? There's a Hindu dying every 2 days. They're hung upside down on poles for everyone to see. That's the reality on the ground. And we face that. Now, what do we do? It's very easy to say, right? Why doesn't India just attack Bangladesh and rescue all the Hindus? Well, you know what? There are 30 million of them. And they're not in one place that I go in and I just rescue all of them and bring them back. They're spread all over the freaking country. Now, I have two options. One, I take over the entire country and feed those rats that are planning to kill me. It's a very sticky situation, right? What do you do? Now, who created this? Who's funding it? Again, the same thing. And for what? We need to have access of rare earth minerals in Myanmar. Fair enough. So geopolitical realities and geopolitical requirements of a short term is actually creating issues for a long term. I mean, I'm so upset at the fact that Americans were funding Hamas. And on the second hand, Americans say, oh, we are the best friends of Israel and this and that. And you look around and say, are you serious? Yeah, seriously. I mean, come on. You're funding the guys that are killing Jews over there. A NATO partner is creating ISIS in Syria, who's killing Jews in Australia. That's horrible.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to have this combined discussion. Everybody wants to just take a geopolitical situation at their little boundary, just fix there because it gives us a pretty good satisfaction. Yeah, okay, fine. I understand this. It's not the case. There's just so many connections around the place and so much of corruption which is actually taking place. And that's one of the reasons why your first question is alliance. India doesn't ally because there is nothing known as an alliance. Everybody looks out for their interests. Some interests meet, some don't.
Now, is India preparing for a future where Iran becomes unstable? Like you mentioned, if it happens, then it would
Yeah,
be
we are.
stability.
So let me go back in history. The Shah that everybody loves in the West today, he was anti-India. During the 65 and 71 war, he was funding Pakistan against us. Pakistani fighters used to land in Iran. Fighter jets used to land in Iran, refuel, and then come back here. Because we had air dominance over Pakistan, he allowed his air bases to be used against us. So in India, nobody's very happy with the prospect of the Shah coming back or whatever his son or whatever it is. India is also not very happy with the kind of nonsense that happens on the street against the people of Iran. Now, Iranians did something really stupid a couple of days ago. They hijacked a ship with 16 Indian sailors and an Indian captain, and they've not let us meet them till now. Fair enough. We picked up 3 of their oil tankers and said, "Hello, don't do that. It is a tit for tat. I mean, we dominate the bloody ocean in this region. Don't try these stunts with us."
Yeah.
So it was because of us when the Red Sea issue started up last year. India was there. India has a 35 ship contingent patrolling the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, and of course the Somalian pirate issue. No, there's been no incident after that. We dominate that area. Don't do this with us now. So nobody is very happy with what is happening here, and we also understand the rivalry. We understand the nonsense that Iranians do as far as their proxies are concerned. There's no question about it. But well, so India is preparing. There is no question about it. We had some investments in the port of Chabahar, which we walked away from. We said, okay, you guys are going through shit right now. Here's your money back. Keep it. We're just going to step away for a little bit. I don't want to get my hands burnt in this, right? Because tomorrow, if something happens on the port of Chabahar, then I'm responsible to respond. I don't want to get into it. See, India is not wanting to get into any sort of a conflict. Somebody hits us, we will hit them back hard. Right. Beyond that, we don't want to get into a conflict because we were 1.4 billion people, right? Our economy is growing at a fantastic pace right now, 8.2% in the last quarter. Reports are about 8.3 or something in this quarter. That takes our yearly growth to about 7.8 or 8% for that matter. I don't want to spoil that right now. Wars are expensive, they're costly. I don't want to because I need to get my people up. Our priority is that. Our priority is trade. Our priority is uh, our standard of living within the country, our purchasing power parity, which is the second largest in the world today. We missed out on a long time. We lost opportunities that were given to us, that came in front of us because of stupidity within our country. We don't want to do that again. Now, I'll give you a clear example. Everybody, was in India, the nationalists were very upset that we hit Pakistan only for 4 days. Yeah, we should have taken some land. Yeah, we should have bloody kicked their bloody ass. Yeah, but while I agree with that, but that's not my priority. I wanted to teach him a freaking lesson, and I taught him a freaking lesson. Simple. And now he knows. Next time he raises his head, I'm going to smack him extremely hard. The first 2 days, we didn't even fight. We responded to them as what they did to us. We just this thing. But when they didn't listen, on the third day, within 22 minutes, we destroyed 13 of their airfields of a nuclear country. We destroyed their nuclear command center. We hit one of their nuclear storages, which is not there in public domain, but OSINT pretty much confirms it. They were immobile. Their command control had gone, which is their main command center, was bombed in 22 minutes. And they made 68 phone calls to the Americans that day, telling them to put pressure on us to stop. And our answer was, let them stop. We'll stop as well. And they fired 2 ballistic missiles on our capital. We shot them down. You do that again, there's going to be a cost. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to attack people. We don't want to. But that doesn't mean we can't. So our focus is somewhere different. I mean, yesterday itself, has just approved one of the biggest arms import as well as manufacturing orders, which is close to $51 billion. It's pow- it's strength with boys. No fighting, but please don't fight with us.
It sounds so familiar. It's so similar to Israel. 99% of Israel's wars are defensive wars. They just want to sit in peace, but the neighbors never give them
Yeah.
peace.
So we've got two. We've got one nuclear armed Pakistan, which is rogue, a terrorist, and you've got China, another nuclear armed neighbor. Let me know which other country has that neighborhood problem.
Yeah.
No one. No one in the world is there in a position like ours. We've got a China that during COVID decides, you know what, I want to take Indian territory, beat the crap out of them.
Yeah.
We created a deterrence today with the Chinese where they will think twice before doing something like that. So it's not easy, but one of the things that India's message is very different from everybody in the world. And that's why people are coming here. Because they say, yeah, this guy's talking sense. He says, okay, there are differences. Let's sit down and figure it out. Let's not do this. Those who want to are coming. Those who don't, fair enough. They're
Yeah.
lost.
What lessons do you think India has learned from Israel in terms of counterterrorism, if any?
Response. We didn't before. I say it with a straight face. We were stupid. 2611, we should have pounded these punks into a bloody piece of hay, which we did this time. This should have been done before. India has a little different policy as far as terrorism, because the terrorism that you have in Israel and the terrorism we have in India are two different things. On the face of it, radical Islamic jihad, right? So we have a policy, let's say in Kashmir, where we have this issue. We have a policy which will help you understand. If there is a localized terrorist, there's a local chap. So if there are 500 terrorists, by the way, there are only 20 or 30 of these local chaps from here. That's it. Smaller. So if there's a local guy, we tell him, all right, you're a local chap, you're our person, we're not going to kill you. Surrender. We'll get you back into the mainstream. Don't do this. But if there's a foreigner, we shoot him through his head. There's a little bit of a difference as far as this thing, because Israel does not have localized terrorists. In the sense, you have very little Israelis that are picking up arms against Israel. You don't have that. And that's the huge difference between the two countries. So we call our policy an iron hand with a velvet glove. You want to shake my hand? Fair enough. Come, put your weapon down. Let's shake my hand. There's a velvet glove. But you don't want to do it, then I will take off my glove. So the containment of terrorism are two different variants of the same problem. It's not the same issue. We have something called red terrorists within our country. Till about 10 years ago, there were about 200 odd districts within the country. They were overwhelmed by these communists. Today, there's just about one odd district left, hardly anything. So we told them the same thing. You're our people. Put your guns down, surrender, come. We'll take you into the mainstream. We'll give you education. We'll give you everything. We'll give you housing, jobs, everything. Stop doing this. So those of them who surrender, the government has made housing societies for them. They've given them jobs. They've made schools. They've made roads, everything inside that area. Those who haven't, well, sorry, but you're going to not be alive very soon. And the deadline for that is the 31st of March. The kill ratio is about 10, 12 of these chaps every week. So there's not going to be any tolerance. So there's a difference. We are fighting certain people which are misguided from our own population. Our population is very large. So you will have these elements which are there. Plus, these elements are not our homegrown elements. These are backed by the Chinese elements, by the Pakistanis, who've created these little organizations around the place, like Iran does, proxies. They're the same guys who get funded by these people to create instability within in India. Now that we are finally now after 70 years clean, squeaky clean. There's there's going to be time, but this is it's going to take time. But yeah, that's the reality. So there are two different paradigms, but a response to the originator is something that we should have done a long time ago.
Do you think that there are some lessons that Israel can learn from India or they have learned from India?
Yes, there are. See, there are two, three things. Somewhere down the line, I think Prime Minister Netanyahu mentioned something very recently, and I was quite surprised. He said, we want to stay sail on our own now. We don't want to be linked up to the Americans anymore. We want to do things on our own, and that's very appreciable. Well, that's the India way, right? Strategic autonomy. Listen, enough. You guys can't be trusted anymore. Just let us be. We'll figure it out. And that's something that you see. Israel is starting to exert itself as far as its foreign policy is concerned. Even its defense is concerned. It's doing what it needs to do, in spite of the fact that the world was against it. Now, a lot of people don't know, but during the bad period of Israel, the amount of defense equipment that was made in India and sent there is not even funny. The drones that keep flying around are all manufactured here. There's Israeli Indian technology which has made these drones, and then the manufacturing capability is here. So Prime Minister Netanyahu has a team that comes and does all this work in India. So we didn't make a huge sound and cry about it, but there's a lot of support that went from here, and that's fine. That's okay. Because at one time in '99, when we were facing a challenge, Israelis gave a lot of support to us. We don't forget that. You're not going to forget that. I mean, in India, there's nothing known as anti-Semitism. I don't know where that comes from. Even the Jews have been welcome here. I mean, there's a huge amount of Israeli tourism here. We never have a problem. Please come. Be respectful to us. Be respectful to our traditions and culture. Do what you want to. Nobody cares. And that's how we've been from history. So I guess, yeah, Israel is going to pick up certain amount of lessons of strategic autonomy from India. How much? Of course, time will tell.
Just going ahead of what you said, many people talk about parallels between Jews and Hindus as ancient civilizations that survived repeated invasions. What kind of similarities do you see between Jews and Hindus?
There is, these are the only two religions where you're born in. So Hinduism is very misunderstood. Let me say something. It's not a singular way. My Hinduism might be different from my father's Hinduism, right?
Mm.
Or my mother's Hinduism. She might believe in one particular God. I might believe in a different one. But there is no fight between us. Actually, there's a certain amount of curiosity. Hey, how do you do this? Really? Oh, okay. I didn't know that. We do it like that. Oh, there's a similarity right there. So it's such a vast country. It's such a huge country. Every 5, 7 kilometers, the language changes here. People know about 50 registered language. Trust me, there's so many freaking languages. I stay in South India in a particular state called Karnataka. I understand the local language here. I speak the local language here, but I can't speak the language that is spoken in North Karnataka. It's the same language. Diversity is huge. It's a very open sort of a way of life, right? The customs are different, but similar. It's confusing, right? So it's a very different system altogether. But the main moot thing is that you can only be born a Jew, or you can only be born a Hindu. You can't. I mean, you can convert, of course, but the baseline is that this is by birth, this is by blood, and there's a certain amount of ancient sense here, right? As old as a certain religion or as old as a certain belief gets, there's a certain maturity that comes across with it. There's a certain knowledge bank that comes across with it, which is not there in the modern religions, right? So you have that age-old tradition which is there, which goes along, which brings about it along with it a certain amount of change, a certain amount of development, a certain amount of prosperity, and a different outlook. That happens when you sustain yourself for 5,000, 7,000, 10,000 years. I mean, we found our religious texts, which are now the evidence, right? There's a religious symbol which has been found in a place called Rakhi Gadi in India, which is around, I don't know, 7, 8,000 years old, and we're still digging right now. So there's going to be more. We estimate somewhere around, I think, about 10 or 12,000 years old as far as our basic written and recognizable culture goes. They're very old systems, and these are the only two.
Yeah.
Where's the third one? There's nothing. If you say I don't have anything against Christianity or anything like that, but Christianity came 2,500 years. Islam came 14, 1500, 1700 years ago. Beyond which, after that, stuff has kept developing. In India, there's a thing called, there's this sect called, belief called Sikhism. Sikhism is an offshoot of Hinduism. These were warriors that were fighting the Muslim invaders. This is what 700 years old. So there's development, and that only happens in religions which are that old. There's a certain amount of wisdom that comes across. So that's the baseline that I see.
And also, I think there are two religions that don't go recruiting people to join their religion, right? Hindus
Yeah, there's no promotion.
don't do
I mean,
that.
now we've started a little bit. I think we need to. Hindus have been stupid. Our texts are being found in bloody South America, and we are saying, no, 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 we were never there. Are you crazy? Go there. So we're not like telling people, no, you must join and this and that. No, we're just saying, okay, this is who we are. If you like it, come. We're not telling you to join the religion. We're just saying, follow this. See if you like it. If you don't, fair enough, no problem, no pressure. Nice
Yeah.
meeting you. Our symbols have been found in South America. We were the largest ocean-faring nation in the 1400s. People don't understand that. We had the largest freaking navy in the world. Our doors opened from inside. We screwed ourselves. Nobody came and defeated us.
Yeah.
The Brits never defeated us in any battle. They defeated our soul. We sold ourselves out. And that's the problem. Like I say this, I was really sad when I saw anti-war protests in Israel. I was like, what the hell is wrong with you? The leftist disease is there everywhere, right? And it's not new. It's been there for centuries.
You have that in India also, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's nothing worse than a leftist Hindu, and there's nothing worse than a leftist Jew. So we have that common as well.
Wow. You suffer from it also.
Now, the worst people to write horrible freaking articles and stuff like that about Israel are Jews,
Sadly.
right? And the worst ones to write horrible articles about us are Hindus.
Yeah, unfortunately. How do you think that India views this Israel-Palestine conflict differently than Western countries? And what is understand? Yeah.
To be honest with you, the Western countries have this very singular view of things. They don't understand the realities and the depths of the game. And that's the problem. There is no understanding of binaries. This is not a singularity as far as the situation is concerned. It's not. It's never going to be. Right. And as time goes by, it's going to get further from reality. If this was sorted out in 1946 or 47 or 48, this wouldn't have been happening today. They didn't do it. Why? Well, why did they partition India? It's a simple question, right? If Pakistan was supposed to be a Muslim nation, then all Muslims should have gone there. We have more Muslims than Pakistan, and we are known as Muslim haters. Really, there are 2 million Arab Muslims staying in Israel. I think I rest my case. This is so stupid because they don't understand the binaries of situations, the differences, and these problems have been created by whom? The Simon-Picot Agreement between the Brits and the French right after the First World War. They drew these arbitrary lines without thinking who stands where, who stands what. They promised the Palestinians a piece of land. They promised the freaking Jews that were, sadly running out of Germany at that time and Europe at that time. Oh, yeah, this is yours. Yeah, yeah, this is yours. They created this conflict. This should have been resolved in 1949. It should have been resolved. Now, is there a possibility today any population is going to settle for any settlement? No, it's not. It's not going to happen unless something really disastrous takes place. And that's the problem. If one says two-state solution, well, there'll be an opposition. And by the way, I'm against it because guess what? We went through the two-state solution. It didn't work. I have a freaking crazy ass maniac on my border who wants to eat me every time. But yeah, the advantage between being in an Israeli position with a semi two-state solution is I can hit him like a country. You can't. Because every time you do something, oh no, all sorts of people start crying around the world. Oh, persecution, no, this, so that. Nobody does that for Pakistan. So that's the only advantage that we have with this two-state solution. I don't buy it in the first place. If it's a two-state, it needs to be a clean break. You go your way, I go mine. Khatam. Finished. Over. But that's not what they would want. They would want to create a passage through Israel which connects West Bank to Gaza and some sort of a rubbish nonsense which you actually see coming out of the West. And I've read enough of this. Not, and you're like, what are you doing? You've created this problem in the first place. You promised two sets of people the same thing. And you're never ready to acknowledge that fact. The Jews that were persecuted in Israel, in Europe, I mean, they went through hell, and you still did what you did. Well, you know what? That's what I'm saying. If you go back to the 1800s, you see the wars, for example, 1900s, you see Kaiser Helm and all these guys, when they were from Germany, and they realized there's certain battles we can't win. They didn't fight them. And that's long term thought. I have no interest in this place. Why am I supposed to do this? The biggest example is Poland in the Second World War. The Brits went and signed, oh, yes, we will support you and we will. Oh, when the Germans attacked, oh, yeah, we are declaring war on Germany. Beyond that, what? Not five Brits landed up in Poland to defend them. And that's horrible. Poland was finished as a country.
Yeah.
So this is my problem. And how I look at it, see, there's a political angle, which is, of course, the official government line. Yes, we do support the two-state solution. Yes, absolutely correct. Which is the right thing to do, as I guess. Personally, I don't buy it. It's not going to work. Fair enough. Okay, declare a country. Then, yeah, then don't do anything stupid, because then Israel has the right to hit you as a country. Right now, it doesn't. So that's the only slight advantage that I see that Israelis might, if Palestine becomes a country, that you can smack them if they do something stupid. But, the funny thing is, for example, the Arabs who say, oh, Palestine must become a country. Fantastic. I support that. Where? Please answer that question.
You could argue that Gaza was a state for them. What did they do with it?
What did these Egyptians do with it? These are the realities people don't want to talk about because it's not politically convenient for them. It does, politicians don't want to talk about it because it hurts their vote bank. In Britain, they will condemn Israel because, well, guess what? The vote bank is Pakistani. In Canada, they will condemn the Israelis because, guess what? The vote bank is Pakistani. The richest bank drivers in Pakistan are retired Pakistani military officers who've stolen billions from this country, so-called Pakistan, and settled in Canada, and today are pulling strings at the back. And it's the same in England. They've legalized so many illegal migrants from the Middle East and North Africa that they have now become a vote bank that no European population can afford to lose. That's how these monkeys are in power right now. And pardon me for using that word, but that's how these monkeys are in power. What's the depth of Keir Starmer? Nothing. What's the depth and speciality of Mr. Macron? Every time he doesn't like anything, he dismisses the government. There have been race riots in the country, left, right, and center, without any this thing. What's the depth of mayors in Germany? Nothing. They've deindustrialized Europe. They've killed it. So I don't think the world is going to support common sense politics that Israel's solution needs to be. And that's the screwed up part about it. The Pakistanis, for example, are killing people in Balochistan. Balochistan is 44% of Pakistan and about 13% or 14% of the population. They use fighter jets on them. They bomb them from helicopter gunships and and nobody says a word to them because it's just Muslim on Muslim, right? Those are also poor human beings. You look at the women there. Their husbands are picked up from their homes in the middle of the night without an explanation, hung on lampposts in the morning and left there. So this is not common sense. This is just stupid politics, which is just gonna, at the end of it, people who get crushed is Israel, India. It doesn't hurt them there. There are no terrorist attacks happening in America or Britain for that matter. Yeah, Britain is gonna have one very soon, the way they're going. But till the time something doesn't happen in Europe, where European blood actually flows, they will not understand the problem. They will support the problem. Only when the Americans got hit in 9/11 did they say, oh shit, there's something called terrorism? Really? Oh, we will now, oh, terrorist. Now every bugger who will speak against them is a terrorist. When Israel said this, nobody listened. When India said this, nobody listened. Black September. What did they do? Did the world stand with Israel at that time? Yeah, for 10 days. Beyond that, what? That's the reality. See, that's the thing. People are not talking about these real issues today. Until we do, we will never sort out these problems. So, yeah, a political statement, politically correct statement saying, oh, yes, I would like the two-state solution. Fantastic, great state of Palestine. Flag, flag, flag. Where? Who leads it? What's its speciality? What's it connect to this ocean? What will it produce? What will it sell? Where will it eat from? What is its education system? What is its financial structure? Is there a central bank? Is there a central medical commission? Is there a de-radicalization committee? Anything? No, 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 no. We've not thought about that, but just make the nation. So you've got idiots in this world who will recognize Palestine as a nation, but when you ask them where, oh, yeah, that's under work right now. How stupid is that? So I don't buy this. I don't know what my country officially stands for the two nation theory, but I always say we've got a live example of it. It's not going to work, And as I stand, I said this before at the heck of repeating myself. The only advantage that the Israelis get is by smacking it as a country when it does something stupid.
Yeah. Well, Adi, I appreciate your time. I think I could speak to you for hours, but
Absolutely.
this is it's good for the first session. Thank you. Maybe you want to leave us with a final message. What message do you have for Israel and India? Whatever you want to say.
Honestly, these are two great countries that they need to work together a little more. I'm looking forward for the leadership visits because what will come in the readouts will not be the reality. We'll never know what is actually discussed between the two leaders, but the relationship needs to go forward into common sense. And I think that if in this region two countries can do it, it's this, and then get few other nations which are now turning and becoming more, I won't say like-minded, but I'm saying followers of common sense politics, UAE, and people are realizing, okay, there's something that we need to do. Get a hold of a group of people without an alliance, sit together, create a plan, get more people on the table, and I think it's possible that we can actually calm down this entire region. Otherwise, we are heading for a disaster.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you again. And
Thank you, sir.
wish you the best. If you have a 401k or an IRA, please listen. Gold is at record highs. What many people don't know is this: you can move part of your retirement money legally and without tax penalties into physical gold you actually own. Alpha Omega Gold helps you do this through a gold IRA. Your gold is real, it is stored safely, it is in your name. Learn more at ao.gold/stand. Alpha Omega Gold is our sponsor, and they proudly stand with Israel.